Rouse's Markets is voted best grocery store in New Orleans, best grocery store in Baton Rouge, Mississippi, Gulf Coast, Thibodaux, Houma, Hammond, Lake Charles, Mobile, year after year. Thank you for choosing us best grocery store on the Gulf Coast. Number one. Thank you.
Thank you.
The number one grocery store
In Mississippi, Alabama,
Louisiana. 1 million customers a week can't be wrong. Welcome to Rouse's.
And good evening, everyone, and welcome to Bayou Time. I'm Lonnie Thibodeau. Glad to be back with you tonight, subbing for our normal host. And tonight we've got a good lineup of some stories and some activities going on here in our local area as we get close, ever so much closer, less than 2 weeks from Christmas. And tonight, our first guest we're very happy to have with us, Hillary Danos from down the Bayou, from the Bless Your Heart, a nonprofit, a great organization formed just a few short years ago. We'll get into a little bit more into the history of them in a few moments, but they got a big event coming up this Saturday. Hillary, hi, how are you doing?
Hey, I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing great. Well, look, thank you for joining us. So the event, let's talk about that first. The event is coming up this Saturday, Cutoff
Yes.
Youth Center, I believe. Why don't you go ahead and kind of give us the date and time and details?
Yes, so we will be having our third annual Bless Your Heart Christmas party. We always partner with our local fire department and different agencies, but we will be having our Christmas party on Saturday at the LaRose Civics. The LaRose Civic Center, the Cutoff Youth Center. We kind of go back and forth between the two for different events. We will be having our party at the Cutoff Youth Center from 10 to 2. Everything is completely free to the community. Each child will have the opportunity to take a photo with Santa. They will receive a gift, and then we will have hot dogs, chips, drinks, pastalaya, jambalaya, hot chocolate, different things like that. And there will be numerous crafts and activities, games, and different things like that for them to enjoy.
Right. And I believe the food aspect, that's kind of from the Harbor Police, right? They kind of take control of the cooking and distributing, I guess.
So the fire department and Harbor Police, and then we also have an employee of Edison Schwest Offshore. They will all be partnering together to cook a huge jambalaya and a pastalaya. And then we also had hot dogs and different things like that donated.
Mm-hmm. And again, I believe this is the third annual. Is that correct? So you've done this a couple of times. How did things go? What were the crowds like the first couple of years?
I'll be honest with you, the last 2 years, and we anticipate the same this year, there's generally about 1,500 kids that show up. So that's what we prepare for. We buy 1,500 gifts. We make sure we have crafts, food for that many, and then, of course, the adults as well. But it's just a great event for families to bring their kids out. It's at no cost to them. And a lot of kids, this is the only opportunity they have to experience something like this. So we want to make sure that it's at absolutely no cost to these families. But we always have a great turnout.
No, that's awesome. And just in the few minutes that we do have left, we want to make, for people who are not familiar with the nonprofit, I know y'all were formed several years ago. Was it kind of during or maybe right after the COVID period? Am I remembering that correct?
So it was during COVID. And we kind of started during COVID in March of 2020, but in May of 2020 is when we were formally established as a 501c3.
Right. And when you were formed, were you specifically because COVID is the million-pound elephant in the room at that time in our world, in our area, obviously. But was it formed specifically as a reaction to help families during that time, or were there some other factors besides COVID that maybe played into its formation?
Well, I mean, my best friend Sherry and I, we've always been the type that we like to help and do different various projects. And I guess COVID really kick-started it because we saw that there was a need, and we had so many donations coming in, which then prompted us to form the nonprofit. And then from there, we've had numerous projects. It's basically, I always like to say, we're not a nonprofit that specializes in one thing. We basically just address any needs that arise in our community, whether that be food insecurity, homelessness, whether the teachers need things for school, or we throw free events to the community. So it's basically just whatever is needed, but it did get started because of COVID.
Right. I've got you. I've got to say, too, Hillary, it has been my experience, I work, my last name's Thibodeau, but I'm from Houma, but spending most of my life here, but I spent 18 years working for Schwess, working down there.
Okay.
And I can tell you that what I discovered during that period is people down the bayou have huge hearts. And it is absolutely amazing how when there's difficulties or problems, I mean, during my 18 years there, you had all kinds of stuff. I mean, you had hurricanes, all kinds of things happen. And I can just remember the people down there would just galvanize and pull together. And so when I read up on the history of your organization and everything you did, I'm like, that ain't no surprise to me. I mean, that's just how people are down there. I mean, they just pull together. And of course, I know while the name is Danos, obviously you're not from here originally. You're from up, northeast, I believe?
Maine. I'm from Maine, yeah.
Yeah, Maine. And so the point being is, to some people it may have been a culture shock, or to you when you got down here, but it is some amazingly generous, kind-hearted people. You really have to admit.
It is. I said that the other day that it's almost 20 years that I moved here, and everybody has been so welcoming. And on that point, like you said, everybody is so generous, and we just wanted to thank all of our sponsors for this year's Christmas party. I will have them listed on our Facebook page, and we do plan on having a banner made for the party this weekend, but we could not have this party without, of course, the help of the volunteers and then all of our donors as well, because this community is just very generous.
Okay, we have less than a minute left, so real quick, the most important thing, remind us again of the details, date and time and place before we wrap up.
Yes. So Saturday from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. at the Cutoff Youth Center. Like I said, we will have games, food, activities. Santa Claus will be there. We're hoping the Grinch will be there. I'm about to confirm that. But it will just be a good time and a nice event for people to come out and bring their kids to, again, at no cost to them. So we really hope to see everyone. And again, we just want to thank everyone for the support and all of our donors and volunteers.
All right. Well, thank you so much again, Hillary Danos with the Bless Your Heart nonprofit down there in down the Bayou. And what a great job they do. Thank you, Hillary, for joining us. We're going to take a break. We'll have more Bayou Time right after this.
Today's social media segment is brought to you by Alford and Associates for all of your insurance needs. CIS, Cardiovascular Institute of the South, the highest quality cardiovascular care available. Barker Honda, the Barker family tradition of quality.